you worry about your party's image when you have to hold your victory press conference in a pub and you're drinking half a bitter while you're doing it?
I don't worry at all about the image of the fact that we have to be in a pub rather than Manchester Town Hall, when, providing you people will point out that Manchester Council denies the right to use Manchester Town Hall, thereby discriminating against the very large number of people who voted for us to get certain things across. And we're in a pub because there's a mob outside, organised, as I say again, by the far left with the Labour Party, supported by the Conservative Party, in order to force us to do things like this. So no apologies there. As for drinking bitter, well, perhaps it should be champagne, you know, cups of tea, but I'm thirsty, it's a pub, this is what happens in ordinary places in Manchester. Yes, thank you very much. Our position with the Gurkhas, because the Sun, the Express and so on, and the Manchester Evening News, who we've excluded from this conference because their lies have been so outrageous, have said, well, the Sun produced this, a leaflet, a BNP leaflet supposedly, which said that all the Gurkhas here, looking after Gurkhas who are ex-servicemen and so on, should be expelled from the country. Now that leaflet was actually produced by people from a group called TWAFA, Tyne and Weir Anti-Fascist Association, which is closely allied with the people out there. It's the same personnel. It's funded to the tune of £25,000 a year by 5 Labour councils in the northeast of England. It's all perfectly verifiable. They produced a bogus leaflet, which the Northern Echo, which is no friend of ours, recognised as likely bogus, phoned our candidate in the election up there and asked him, and published the fact that he disassociated himself from it completely, said that it wasn't our leaflet, as it wasn't, that as an ex-serviceman who'd served with Gurkhas, he was very, very offended by it, and he's looking at legal action against the Sun, because while the local paper made the effort and understood that that leaflet was bogus, the Sun made the conscious decision not to. We immediately complained to the Sun. They haven't issued a retraction, so that's a press council complaint. It will go further, and other papers have picked it up. So that was a fabrication. Our position on the Gurkhas is this, that we said right at the start when this became an issue that we, if we were in power, would be far more generous to the Gurkhas than the Labour Party was being when they were talking about, you know, their criteria were so restrictive, almost no one was being allowed in. We said we'd be more generous, and specifically that any one of them who was actually seriously sick and needed treating in good hospitals in this country, we would allow them and their family into the country for as long as they needed treatment or for as long as they lived. We also said that we didn't feel that Britain, as the most overcrowded country in the world, could take an extra 100,000 people and their families, which is precisely what, I don't want to politicise them, but it's also what the Gurkha campaign and Joanna Lumley said when they said to the government, we are absolutely sure that 10,000 will come and their families. And on that basis we immediately said, as actually did the government, for once myself and Gordon Brown were in full agreement at that point, when he moved towards our position of letting in a decent number. As for 100,000, I'll tell you quite simply, as I say, the problem is Britain's full. If our state was to remove the more than 100,000 Muslims who, according to, I think it was an Express opinion poll last year, said that they sympathised to a significant extent with Al-Qaeda, if they were to remove those people because they're disloyal to Britain and dangerous, thereby making the space for 100,000 Gurkhas and the dependents, then we'd be delighted, I'd be delighted, to have every single one of them here in Britain. Hope that makes it clear. Thank you very much.
Have you had many more members to your council
Well, I think on that one, I'll introduce Tina. All right, come out here with it. Tina Wingfield is going to be in charge of our constituency operation for our constituents. She lives in Cumbria, and at present she's our membership secretary. Come on, Tina. Jacket. She's going to be relinquishing the position of membership secretary to work very, very closely with me on behalf of my constituents. But as the questions about membership, I'll hand you over to Tina.
Yeah. Have you had any increase in membership?
We have, I think, over the last 6 weeks, I think I've processed just under 2,000 brand new members, and that's totally fresh new records. We don't usually give out our membership figure for the simple reason we don't give out ballpark figures either. Percentage increase over the last 2 months, we would say that it's gone up by about 25%. It's been absolutely a huge rise in membership. At the moment, we don't know exactly, how much, how large that rise is, because we've got hundreds of thousands of inquiries that we haven't been able to answer. Our phone lines were absolutely jammed after the broadcast. So we've got a backlog of thousands of calls, and we would hope to translate a good 20% of those inquiries into actual memberships. So a huge rise in support for the party
Can you
on
tell
the
us
back
where
of
they're
our
from?
election
Where the
campaign.
memberships are from then?
All over.
Any particular areas?
In particular, it tends to be the traditional Labour areas. A lot of the working class have come to the conclusion that Labour no longer represent their interests. So a lot of the phone calls, people are phoning up, they're saying, I've voted Labour all my life, my father voted Labour, my mother, but I cannot bring myself to do it again. They're not representative of the working class any longer. They've totally abandoned us, and they're now defending the interests of every single minority group except the indigenous British people. So yes, Labour supporters, but equally a lot of people who say I've always voted Tory, but I won't vote for a vacuum. I won't vote now for a leader that has absolutely no substance, and they want someone who actually reflects what the majority of the British population are talking about.
Mr. Griffin, sorry, if that's reflected then, if a lot of the people that have now signed up to become members of BNP are people who've said they've voted Labour for a long time, does that not prove then that this was a protest vote against Labour?
I don't think so, because it's not. There was a protest vote against all the politicians, a one-off, because of, as was raised over there, the expenses thing. No, this is more. The Labour Party in 1997, when they came to power, said manufacturing industry doesn't matter anymore. That was the signal they'd given up on the working class, and were seeking to build a new block of middle-class and all workers and different ethnic minority groups, and so on. So this is a long-term thing. This is the same as the strange death of liberal England between 1906 and the 1920s. The same thing is happening to the Labour Party. It is dying completely in its traditional heartlands. Well, I class as the same people as would be classified under United Nations law if the British government would sign up to it. And just as the Aborigines of Australia are the first people of Australia, because they've been there about 25,000 years, just as the North American Indians are the native people of North America, because they've been there about 12,000 years, so the English, the Scots and the Irish and the Welsh, the vast majority, according to current DNA evidence, have been here for about 17,000 years. We are the first people. You wouldn't dare ask that question in North America of a member of the Sioux tribe, so why can you feel that you can insult the English, the Scots and the Irish and the Welsh by disputing our right simply to say we're the first people? That doesn't give us a right to be nasty to anybody else, but it gives us special rights so to order the affairs of this country that our culture and our ways and our identity remain preeminent here.
But how can you stand there and say that your policies won't and aren't racist when your very constitution is racist?
The whole way that this country is run is racist. There are 12...
You just told us that your policies won't be racist. You're not a racist.
I'm not a racist. We're about levelling the playing field. At present, if you are an indigenous Brit, you can't even as an English person appear on the census form. The state has forced us to be classified as white British, which means that we alone are not protected by the Race Relations Acts. Everybody else is. The English, the Irish, the Scots and the Welsh are the only people who are not properly covered, the English in particular. There's a huge amount of institutionalised racism against the majority population in this country. Millions of them are very angry about it. Nearly 1 million voted for us largely on that basis. And it's time the political elite, including the mass media, understood that this is a very serious problem. There have been great injustices done to our people, and if you leave injustice to fester, it can cause all sorts of very serious problems. We're here to get it out in the open. We're not here to put anybody else down. We're here to stop the ruling political class